To tell us more about empowering small businesses, may I call on stage Raj Rishi Singh, CMO MakeMyTrip and Chief Business Officer MyBiz at MMT. All right, Miloni, we're almost at the end of the day. You need to get all the insights out of Raj and you have 15 minutes to do that.
Ish. Rishi, wonderful to have you here with us here at ET Soonicorn Summit, the Delhi leg of the event. And to just start off with the story of MakeMyTrip, one of the first businesses that actually leveraged the digital space and the internet and became an household name, especially at a time when we didn't have the kind of digital infrastructure that we take for granted today in terms of payments, just in terms of cheap data and stuff like that. MakeMyTrip now also has a SaaS product, which is MyBiz. So talk to us about MyBiz. How did you venture, from a B2C space into a B2B space?
Yes, I think it's working now. Thanks, Miloni. First of all, pleasure being here. We've essentially been a B2C company, and we've been focused on user experience. So if I may put what MakeMyTrip is a tech platform which delivers user experience, and our category is travel. And we've been 20 years old, we've been scaling up. We are now the largest travel platform in India. And what we realized was two things. I mean, there were two insights and the reason why we pivoted towards building MyBiz. The first is that 30% of India travels for work. I mean, if you see like you are going back to Bombay and your flight will actually be filled with business travelers going back to Bombay up for the weekend and likewise. That's number one. Number two is when we started thinking, oh, this is a big space. I mean, business travel or corporate travel, as we call it, is a big space. We also saw a huge opportunity that the experience for the employee when he was traveling for work versus when he was booking and traveling for himself was differential. So business travel was managed in India in a very archaic manner where there were TMCs who would kind of manage travel, and you would have call centers or call desk inside or a call center desk inside the corporate. We thought that there's an opportunity to kind of reimagine this business and build it on user experience. And that's how we started thinking about a platform, and that's how we started working on MyBiz 4.5 years back. And in the last 4.5 years has been an amazing journey because in some sorts, we have redefined business travel management in India. When we started MyBiz 5 years back, we just had some initial thinking and then we said, okay, let's pilot by bringing a few large corporates to test the platform out. And we were we just got two large ones, one multinational, one large Indian consumer finance company to sign on MyBiz when COVID happened. And in COVID, our overall revenues for the group became zero. But what we did over those 2 years of COVID was because we had understood the use cases, we actually put all our might behind building the tech stack on MyBiz. So when COVID receded, anyways, automation, there were headwinds or there were tailwinds for automation, and most companies wanted to kind of move to automation everywhere. And we pivoted MyBiz then and said, okay, this is the way you can automate your travel, save money, and delight your employees. And it's been a fantastic journey from there on. Now we're quite scaled up. We have probably the largest corporate travel management product in India. We have 55,000 clients that use MyBiz effectively. They're saving money, and hopefully the employees are delighted as well. So it's been a great journey so far.
All right, what are the challenges for you, because you cater to a very diverse market like India, and also in terms of, sectorally, the kind of clients that you have, that would differ. So, how do you manage all of that?
Yeah. I think the challenges of building a SaaS B2B product are two. There are two differential challenges that we face versus when I compare the same to our B2C business. The one is a B2B product can't fail. And a great example of that is the largest telescope launched in space is called the Webb Telescope. And if you see the document, it's a brilliant documentary on Netflix. If you see the documentary, then it's all about minimizing failures. a B2B product can't fail, because if supposing there's leakage on policies, a company might lose a lot of money just because of one small bug in the policy layer of the company. That's number one. The second thing is that in B2C businesses, you can make large consumer cohorts and say, okay, my product will cater, or you can build different features for a particular cohort. Supposing you're going after affluent, then you can build products and features which an affluent consumer would like. In B2B businesses, every company has different needs. I mean, we do manage your group on one of our products. Your competitor, which may be a replica of your business, will have a very different thinking on policy and the way they want to kind of manage it. So I think every business is different, and hence when you build a SaaS product, you have to ensure that your product is holistic, because you're not building for a corporate, you're building holistically for corporate India. So I think these two challenges, that how do you keep your product error-free, and secondly, as you scale up, how do you ensure that you're building features which are across and not really for a particular client?
You know, India is an extremely price-sensitive market. So I'm assuming, well, of course, that is in the B2C space, definitely. But, what is the experience in the B2B space for you? And, what are the kind of efficiencies that you're driving for these plethora of customers that you have onboarded?
Sure. So there are two ways that we are thinking about this. The first way is that cut the middleman. I mean, bring supplier pricing right from the supplier transparently to the end consumer. I think the more important one is that this supplier goodness, because every supplier, whether it's Indigo or on the flight side, or Taj or ITC on the hotel side, they all kind of like the corporate business, and they want to give the corporate travelers some amount of, for example, flexibility in fares, or better pricing, or say food along with, like for airlines, food and seat along with the pricing. So these pricing does exist. But what happens is that because of distribution of the pricing is challenged. So in the past, these specific corporate fares or corporate pricings have been limited to only large enterprise, where a TMC could aggregate that business. What we are doing is we are ensuring that the same benefit is now passed on to smaller companies, to SMEs, to startups, so they can get the same benefit that was earlier limited to a large enterprise. So I think by cutting away the middleman, building in transparency in pricing, which is basically exposing supplier rates to client, and secondly, by ensuring that the benefits which were only limited to large enterprises are now available to even smaller startups, I think that's how we are driving savings, and for not just for a large client, but also for small customers.
Travel tech is an extremely competitive space, isn't it? So how do you ensure growth, in a crowded marketplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think travel tech is, I mean, the space is available, but what also happens is that you also need deep supply tech, because so if you broadly see MyBiz is a three stack layer. The first layer which is quite replicable, I think, is the layer on which you manage policies. If anyone is very serious about it, like we have been very serious in the last 4 years, it is something that you can build. The second layer is basically the experience layer, which I think is proprietary to us, because what we have done is we've understood how experience has to be driven because of our rich B2C experience. The third layer, I think that's the tricky one, which actually is our competitive edge, which is the supplier layer. Our ability to aggregate supply, for a particular client. We use actually deep data science modeling to say, okay, like how do we give supply to corporate A versus corporate B, depending upon how do they travel, which location do they go to. So I think the third layer, which is data science and supply, is something that I genuinely think we have an edge on, and that's kind of our differentiator.
I want to now talk in terms of the ecosystem perspective, right? So we've got cheaper smartphones, we've got affordable data, we've got better internet access than we've ever had before. In India, we've got the UPI adoption. You also have the AI revolution. You've got, the advantages that come with natural language processing. You've got predictive analysis, data-driven decision making, I mean, and what have you. When you see the convergence of all of these things at a time like this, what lies ahead in store, if you could project in terms of the sector, and maybe also then specifically for MyBiz?
Sure. See, technology is changing at a much faster rate than it has ever been. I mean, for example, this entire piece on AI or language learning models, it's there and it's bound to grow. What we keep on doing as a group is that we are quite open to adopting new technologies. For example, we are experimenting in a big way of seeing how do we leverage AI or LLM to make our consumer journeys simpler. So there are a lot of beta projects, and then as the technology scales up, as we see, okay, this technology will now provide differential benefits to the consumer, we are ready with it because we've kind of learned it, invested in it, and are ready with our, for example, right now we're doing a lot of projects with newer technologies, but we aren't necessarily taking them to the consumer yet because we want to ensure that, see, the consumer does not want a new technology. The consumer finally wants his life to be easier. Unless we find that Goldilocks zone where the technology is now making life simpler is when we start exposing it. So, for example, a lot of credit on this actually goes to Deep Rajesh. I mean, because they are the ones who actually kind of were ahead of time. They started investing on mobiles far more. They always thought about MakeMyTrip as an app-based business, not necessarily when that was the, I mean, that was the go-to thing to do in the market. But because of our early investment, when actually mobile phones became popular and data became cheaper, now we are right up there. Like we are mostly in every traveler's mobile phone has a MakeMyTrip or a GoIBO or a Redbus app. So similarly, I think as these technologies mature, we are sure that because we are putting early investment, we'll be mature enough to kind of handle that. But importantly, we have to keep this first principles that unless we are solving for the consumer, just by introducing one new feature or a new technology or embedding something new might not be the best place.
All right. And in terms of, the wider ecosystem, the travel tech ecosystem, how do you see, that play happening in India, say over the short term, maybe 18 months to 3-year period?
Absolutely. I mean, tech adoption or let's say like a simple matrix of how many bookings are happening online. So that matrix continues to grow. Year on year, we find more people using online modes to book tickets. So, but there's still headroom in India. There's still large headroom in India of people adopting online to book or going online to book. So I think that we'll continuously see tailwinds on number of people booking online. The second thing is that the macros on travel are looking extremely great. I mean, the incidence of travel is going up. For example, in affluent families, if pre-COVID they were doing one large trip, now they're doing 2 large trips plus multiple weekend trips. So I think also the incidence of travel is going up because of smartphone availability, because of cheaper data. The ability of people to look online and search for new destinations, new things is going up. Again, international is a big unlock, and hence the role that we have to play as the leading travel platform in India is keep on ensuring that we build content and inspire people to travel. Secondly, make travel more easier and more accessible. And thirdly, also what we've been doing, Maloney, is that we've been building database products. We are using a lot of data to see, okay, what are the frictions that a consumer has when he's traveling? For example, one of the frictions is that, can I book in advance when I'm still not sure? So we are building products like zero cancellation, so that on top of what is available in the market, so that we ease out consumers' travel experience and also take away any amount of friction that he has currently.
All right. Yeah. Final last question. What lies ahead for MyBiz? Anything that you could share with us?
Yeah, I think we are very excited on MyBiz because we clearly think it's a differentiated product. We clearly think that companies which are currently using MyBiz, and there are a lot of it now, like 55,000 companies that like MyBiz, love MyBiz. We keep on noting their feedback. So that's all great. Also, there's this company called J2. I don't know whether you've heard of it. They kind of rate B2B softwares across the world. So they rate MyBiz as a top 5 softwares on travel internationally. So we are proud of what we have built so far, but we need to build continuously. We need to expand. So I think what we are looking at is the ambitious goal of saying that one day every corporate in India will use MyBiz to book their travel.
All right. And all the very best. Thank you so very much, Rishi. It's been a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much, audience. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.